This is Josie Brown with Author Provocateur. Today, my guest is Alanna Lucas, who writes historical westerns and Regency romances. Her Regencies include Wish Upon a Waltz, Dancing Around the Truth, Waltzing with the Earl, and her most recent, Only a Hero Will Do. Welcome, Alanna.
Thank you.
When did you get the writing bug, and how did it come about?
You know what? I started telling stories to myself when I was a little girl and my uncle was dying of cancer.
Oh.
So I would tell myself stories every night to help myself go to sleep. So I wouldn't write them down, but that's kind of how it started. And I would make up stories, and because I was too upset to read and didn't have my little flashlight on, and so that's kind of how it started. And then for as long as I can remember, that's when things were stressful. That's what I would do. And then, I went to college, not for anything writing related. I actually have a bachelor's degree in interior design and a master's degree in art history. So most of my writing was more, school related, nonfiction, not anything like this, but I always read.
Right.
And then after I had my daughter who had a lot of health issues, I started reading more, jotting down story ideas. And then when I was going for my teaching credential in social studies, I started writing, and it just kind of took off from there. I never really thought about it seriously, but it was just something I always loved to do. And then I couldn't get picked up as a regular teacher. I did a lot of substitute teaching because of budget cuts and everything.
Right.
So most teachers were like, oh, here's a movie, just throw this in. And so I thought, I don't want to watch the same movie 7 class periods a day.
Right.
So I started writing.
Right. I noticed you said that you had a master's in art history. Is that where the love for Regencies came about?
No, I always just loved Regency. I just loved the historical time period, anything history related. My favorite time period for art is actually the Renaissance. So it has nothing to do. So you would think I would write in the time period of art that I love. No, it has nothing to do with that. I just was always a fan of Jane Austen. And I was always drawn to time periods that didn't have a lot of technology. There wasn't phones and computers and other things kind of clogging their days. So I love that, there was always gossip. That's just, how the world is. But there wasn't all the modern stuff that seems to fill our days and create such angst at times. And so I just love that it seemed, it wasn't simpler. And so I loved getting into that that we didn't have all the technology stuff that kind of distracted us from,
living our lives.
The world. Yeah.
What do you think is probably the hardest thing about writing Regencies?
Getting the essence of the time period, the language, but keeping it modern enough so you don't lose your readers. I think there are some people who really enjoy the traditional language, but for a lot of people, they still want an interesting story that they can relate to without making it too complex in the language department. So it's like that balance of giving the essence of that time period, but still with that modern feel so you don't lose the reader.
Right, right. But it's like you say, with modern sensibilities, it's a little bit more difficult to get people drawn up into it. There are so many Janeite fanatics that
Yes.
I think it will live on. But also, there are people that probably could never cross that bridge, back into the 19th century based on the fact that they can't get over how flowery the sentences are, or whereas they're very tightly drawn from my standpoint.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think people sometimes forget, the strict rules of society, and it's how to kind of modernize some of those. So otherwise, the books would be, no one's having sex until they were engaged, married, but at the very least engaged. There's a lot of things. You're trying to find ways to bend the rules. So it's not the same story over and over. And so those who are very true to Jane Austen probably would not like, some of the more modern day authors because of that. But we have to be entertaining.
Right. I agree. Totally. And at the same time, to catch the verve and the feel of that historic era, it takes a
Yeah.
true talent. And from your body of work, I can tell you've totally done that and immersed yourselves in that. Which brings me to my next question. Which books will you be bringing with you to the Barbara Vay event?
I am bringing Only a Hero Will Do. I am working on the sequel, but that is actually the only one that I am bringing. Last time I did the event, I brought everything. This time I'm just bringing Only a Hero Will Do.
Good. So you'll be focusing on that. And
Yes,
that is your most recent release. So,
it is. Yeah, I had a great time last year, and have already started planning my table. That's really fun for me. It's funny. Last year I did the whole very elegant. This year, and that probably not a lot of people would know this, or maybe they would, but Only a Hero Will Do. The hero is based. It's Captain America's Regency doppelganger, and so my table, and I actually carry a little Captain America Lego minifigure with me. My son is a huge fan of Legos, and he gave it to me. And so
that's cute.
He goes everywhere. Yeah, he goes everywhere with me. He poses. I did last time my flight was bumped, and I was sitting in the airport, and I was kind of bored. There was no place for me to sit, and so I took out my little figures and I recreated the airport battle scene on the window ledge at the airport from Civil War. People around me cleared away real fast, so I got a seat. I was really ecstatic. But he goes with me. So my table this year is going to kind of revolve around Captain America, who is the inspiration for my hero in Only a Hero Will Do.
Perfect. Do you think that you'll have the sequel ready by the time of the event? Or will that be coming out afterward?
It will be probably coming out afterwards. I have another work in progress that I'm on deadline for. And so that one, it was interesting. With Only a Hero Will Do, I was thinking in the back of my mind that I would have a sequel to it, but I wasn't exactly sure. And people have just fallen in love with a secondary character, and I have been getting a lot of emails about him. And so his story has actually gotten pushed higher in the list of things I need to work on because Sir Simon's been a hit. I wasn't quite sure, why or how, but people have gotten very emotionally attached to him. So,
and that's what we want.
Other works.
That's what we want for our characters, is that people do get attached to them and do fall in love with them and want more of them.
And I was really surprised because, he did have a role, and I kind of left his story on a little bit of a cliffhanger. But the things the comments that I've gotten about him, I've written, The Rake previously. I've had other secondary characters that people are like, oh, I like this one. But this one, I have gotten people who have just like, when is his story? I need it now. And I have never gotten that from a secondary character.
Well, then everybody's going to be looking forward to meeting you, getting the first book, finding out about him, and then anticipating your next book.
Yes.
And that's what we all want from our readers. So I think you're primed for a late April event in which you can put more of the first book in people's hands so that they want the second book.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you for allowing me to interview you today, and and introducing you to more Barbara Vay Appreciation Weekend readers.
Thank you. This was fun.
Want to hear more about the authors who will be attending the Barbara Vay Reader Appreciation Weekend? Just go to my website, authorprovocateur.com, and click on to the other interviews. You'll also find them on the event's Facebook page. And beneath each interview, feel free to leave a comment about your favorite part of it. Doing so puts you in the running for a bundle of the author's books. Listeners can leave one comment per author to be entered for the drawing. This is Josie Brown of Author Provocateur, signing off.